Welcome back, guys, to the Beyond Condition podcast, the voice of bodybuilding. And today's voice is a returning guest. Rob Latti joins me today, who is the one and only mindset coach. You are always bringing so much value to the podcast, and I genuinely appreciate what we have, but also we get so much good feedback from the episodes we've done. I feel like actually when looking at the sort of 2.5 years of doing the podcast, ours are very, very well received. And although it's a bodybuilding podcast per se, the mindset work, as you know, working with competitors and sports people, if you're working on your mindset, this journey can be so different to if you're not, right?
Absolutely. And I think it encompasses everything, doesn't it? So mindset is such a widely used term now. I mean, everybody's saying it and knows what it is. And, when I first started out, nobody knew what it was. And they all thought, what you on about? And I remember, back in the day, posting on Instagram and Facebook 10, 12 years ago. You have those memories that pop up now. On my memories, things pop up and the biggest thing that's come up from my memories is people that were mocking me back then. So 12 years ago, 13 years ago, if you posted a motivational saying or something to do with positivity, people were like, oh, shut up. What's this? Oh, bloody hell. All right, Oprah Winfrey. What's this all about? Blah, blah. And all those same people now are posting motivational quotes and comments and things. So it's become a more fashionable thing. And I think not just fashionable, I think an understood thing that mindset is so important, and understanding our psychology, mental health, everything else is really, really important. Whereas I think in the early days of social media, it was a bit of a taboo thing, really, but I think in England, we're like that. We're just very, humbug. What's that? Just crack on. You'll be all right.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
it's good that it's moved that way, and it's good that people now understand the power of it and the power of our minds and the effect that our minds have on our lives and everything else, our behaviors. So I think the more people understand that, the more they understand the benefits that they can get from it by just a small shift in the way they think, I think they'll have much better lives because of it.
Yeah, for sure. And today we're going to talk about how to live happy and be relentlessly happy. Now, of course, there's many pillars to this, many things you can look at in your life, and it's going to affect all areas of life. And today we're digging into lots of subjects under that umbrella. But you raise a very valid point there, and it's something that's just sprung to my mind about when you first started, what you're passionate about to try and help others, right? You start posting about mindset and things like this. And there's essentially sort of haters out there. So why are you doing that? Why? Now, you could have easily then thought, well, I won't talk about this because I'm coming against conflict. And I myself, with the podcast, sometimes I'm talking about things that maybe others won't receive well or could come across conflict, talking about stuff in the bodybuilding world. You know what it's like, Rob? We've spoken about stuff. There's so much that could come against, people pushing back. And I've had moments where I'm like, should I still do the podcast? Am I good enough to be the host? And I've continued to work on my own imposter syndrome, etc. And I don't need to skirt around that. But both of us sitting here, right, we are examples of sticking to something you're passionate about that brings you happiness. And I feel like that's such a great starting point for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally correct there. And hey, listen, at the beginning, I nearly quit. You post a few of these things, especially in the early days, because in the early days, it was mostly Facebook. Instagram was considered for kids.
Now TikTok.
Yeah, and then TikTok, and then they said, "Oh, that's for kids." No, Snapchat, and they said that's for. And then TikTok, it's for kids, and then kids very quickly abandon anything that adults start to creep into. So they've got. I mean, Facebook now they call it like nan book. It's not even parent book; it's nan book now. It's like it's even older because now it's all us older people sharing stuff about school or whatever, and young kids now are like, don't want anything to do with that. My mum's on there. So things change very, very quickly. But at the beginning, yeah, when I was getting, people saying, oh, posting another motivational thing or posting something about positivity or whatever it may be, it does knock you and you think, oh, should I? It makes you think twice about posting again. But like you said, if you're passionate about something and you believe in it and you believe that you've got something to offer, it doesn't matter if you're only getting one like. It doesn't matter if you're only, it's your mum and your best mate who's liking your posts at first. You've just got to keep persevering. And what happens, and what happened to me was over that course of time, because I kept posting the same stuff. And listen, it is the same things, it's the same techniques, it's the same things, but you just deliver it in a slightly different way because you don't know on that day who you're going to affect or impact. And because I kept posting the same things over a long period of time, what happens is, and this is indicative of human beings, when they see the same thing over and over, they go, hold on a minute, this guy's for real. He's into this stuff. And actually, some of it's quite good,
Yeah.
and maybe I could take it because he seems like he's doing okay. And if he's following this path, maybe I could take a bit from it. And that's what happens. In fact, in terms of this, in the psychology of selling, in a lot of sales trainings, and a lot of sales experts talk about the power of consistency. Now, if you look at a lot of adverts for goods, it could be anything, furniture, whatever, a lot of them are very, very similar. And there's a lot of big companies you'll see on TV or whatever that are still advertising that have advertised for years. Drink Coca-Cola, for example, and all this stuff. And the psychology behind it is that if you keep putting out the exact same message, maybe tweaked and updated, but the same message over a long period of time, after a while, people just believe it's true. If you keep saying, we are the #1 car sales company in the north or the south, and you say it enough, people believe it's true. And there's somebody I know in my game who their whole marketing thing is about being the most expensive life coach in the UK. And you think that'd be
Yes.
negative. Yeah, you think that'd be negative, wouldn't you? You think people would be like, oh, well, I'm staying away from you then. But he's done very, very, very well because he kept pushing that same narrative, but then backing it up and saying it's because I'm the best and I'm good and whatever else, right? But he attracts high net worth people now.
Mm.
And, I looked at that and I thought, wow, I remember when he first posted that. I mean, he was relatively new at the time and he was not the best in the country and everything, but he kept posting the same narrative. If you're passionate about something and you keep on going, hopefully, and if you have got a modicum of talent, hopefully in the end, you get your just rewards.
And I feel like as well, when we're talking about coaching space for both of us, if there is something that's maybe a little bit out of our remit, as it were, so if you came across someone that needed additional professional guidance, I think it's important for us to stay in our own lane and offer what we know we can help people with, rather than sort of saying, oh, I can do X, Y, Z, if it's not maybe something that we are qualified in or we're able to actually help with. And just bringing it back to, when you are a coach as well, fulfillment from that is ordinarily when you're using your skill set, like you flourish, you feel good because you're helping people with what you know, rather than this constant, like, I don't know what I'm talking about here, but I'm trying to, coach someone. Whereas perhaps you could reach out to someone else, or, look at building a team, etc., etc. But that imposter syndrome is going to be fed if you are actually, essentially you're an imposter, right? If you're trying to
If you're
maybe,
blagging.
yeah, and it does, I'm sure you'll agree, it does come out. And also when you're working with people, you need to be very careful.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, with imposter syndrome, that's a whole new topic.
For
But
sure.
imposter syndrome, I've always said, doesn't it does exist, but it shouldn't exist because I always say if you're suffering from imposter syndrome, then you're in the right place. And what I
Nice.
mean is
Mhm.
people who are not good at what they do don't tend to suffer from imposter syndrome.
I like that.
Say that again. People who are not very good don't have imposter syndrome. It's only when you're good that you start to feel like you're an imposter. And it's hard for people to have that shift in perspective on this. It's because imposter syndrome, you're doing something and you're doing it and you think, oh my God, am I good enough? Can I do this? It means you're in the right place. It means you're growing, you're stretching, you're moving forward, and you definitely deserve to be there. Most people who are rubbish at what they do don't worry about whether or not they should be there. They kind of know. You know, I'm just putting it out there. They know, you know, if you're half decent and you're doing something, but you think, oh my God, they know more than me and they know better than me. That's because you're passionate about what you want to do. You want to be better at what you do. That means you're growing in the right direction. You need to lean into that imposter syndrome. You need to lean into it because that's the direction you need to be going in. So I just say to people, listen, if you're feeling that, you're in the right place. If you're not feeling it, I'd question that more.
Yeah, because it's normally from a place of caring about what you're doing. Also, I find that it can arise from if you face conflict. So you're doing something you're passionate about and you come across someone's opinion or whatever it may be, whatever that conflict is, you then start to, of course, that goes into the realms of self-doubt and they interlink very closely. But you then start to think, you know, even more so, should I be doing this? And I'd say it takes a certain personality type to be relentless, but you can, of course, grow that. I feel like getting inside and realizing what your moral compass is and what your values are is super important. Because if you align, you know, if someone questions what you do and you go, but I've done that from the right place, really, does that matter what that person's opinion is, if you see what I mean?
No, as long as you're, like you said, you're meeting your core values,
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You just stick to you and do you. And I always say your vibe will attract your tribe, and that's it. You know, so end of the day, you just keep doing you, and you will attract those people that are into what you're saying and how you look, how you come across, your whole brand, they will resonate with that. You know, there are some people that need coaching or consulting or mentoring advice like I give, but they would, you know, much rather be with some, I don't know, 60-year-old white besuited guy on Harley Street, and they go to his office and lay on a couch and he asks him how, you know, when your mother said that, what did that make you feel? And they might prefer to go down that route. And then there's other people who like my style and my brand and the way I come across and the way I deliver it. And that's good too. There's enough to go out there for everyone. There's 7 billion people in the world. You've got to stay true to yourself. There's only one of you, and just deliver on you. And bringing it back to topic of happiness, that makes you happy. Because I wouldn't be happy if I was sat here trying to be something I'm not.
With a couch.
Yeah, get on the couch. You know, it's just too difficult, right? So I know what I'm really good at, and that's being me. You know, and you very quickly, you know, after a while, you get to a point where you just go sod the haters, you know, and you just be you. You know, haters are quite good as well because I was in my early days. I used to read about all these consultants or coaches, and they used to talk about all the hate they got, all the bad, you know, people typing stuff underneath their posts, and I never had any, and I was pissed. I was like, hold on a minute, hold on a minute. You ain't good till you've had a hater. You know, you need somebody to say you're no good or what are you doing or who do you think you are or I'm like, hold on a minute. All the good people have got haters. So I reframed what it meant, and rather than, you know, when they did start coming, rather than look at it as a negative, I just reframed it already. I was ahead of the game. I was ready for it before it came. So I was waiting for it. And when I got it, I was like, you know, so
First
I was,
hater.
yeah, I got my first hater. I'm brilliant. I'm great. That means I'm on the right track. I'm doing the right thing. I'm pushing back. And if you do that, then it just, at best, it just makes you feel good rather than taking on the hate and looking at what they actually wrote and going, oh my God, I'm terrible. Oh my God, this one person hates me. Look at it like, yes, I've got a hater. Now I'm going to aim for 3.
Yeah,
Then
sure.
I want 5. Then I want 10. Then I want. Listen, Tony Robbins, love him or hate him, he's probably the best in the world at what I do and what people do, mindset and high performance, really. And I look at some of his posts and he gets a plethora of hate. Gary V, you know, multi-hundred millionaire, you know, probably when it comes to marketing, probably one of the best in the world. Look at his posts, he gets loads of hate. I can name after name after name of personal development gurus in the world, you know, different kinds, from Grant Cardone, who's very hard and in your face, to, I don't know, softer people, Mel Robbins, lovely Mel Robbins, who everyone loves. But I've seen hate under all of them, you know, under Mel Robbins, who's lovely, you know, snake oil salesman. Shut up, go, leave people alone. What are you doing? You're just ripping people off. She's helped millions of people, you know what I mean? And there'll always be hate out there, but it's always these big people. These are, and remember, these are some of the names I've mentioned. These are Jay Shetty gets hate. Christ, the guy's a monk.
I love it.
He was a monk. How can you hate a monk? Do you know
He's
what I mean?
so good though. He's so calming and like he's
Yeah,
a vibe,
nice.
isn't he? And it's
He's
cool.
nice, isn't he? He's unoffensive. He's inoffensive. He never swears. He never says anything bad to anybody. He's inoffensive. He gets hate, right? So, you know, I've heard him called a fake monk. I've heard say, "Oh, you're lying. You're this. You're that. You have no credentials. You're this. Oh, it never ends." And I just look at it and I think, wow. So the biggest people get the most hate. So I said to myself, I need more hate. If you aim for more hate, you'll get more love.
Because as you
Right?
get more successful in the public eye, more people look.
Yeah. More people look, you're going to have more people. And because more people are looking at you, you're going to have more people that just don't resonate with what you're saying. You cannot, there is nobody in the history of the world. I don't care if you look at actors, singers, whatever, anyone who's in the public eye, there's nobody in the history of the world who everybody loved. Everybody, bar nobody. There's nobody. I defy anyone to name someone. There isn't. You could Mahatma Gandhi, you could Jesus Christ, you could. There's always haters, right? So you can't be loved by 7 billion people. So that's why it goes back to what I said at the beginning. Your vibe attracts your tribe, and it's those people who love you, those people who like you, you know, and that's all there is to it. And once you make that mindset shift and really believe in it and buy into it, you think, all right, yeah, let me just find my tribe and ignore the haters. And then you can do the things like write that post that you're scared to press send on and all the rest of it, because you're not trying to please everyone. There are going to be people who don't like your post. You can sit there, curate that post, write out beautiful prose, well-written prose. You can have a brilliant picture, and someone's not going to like it just because it's you. It's simple as that. So just write it and look for your tribe.
Yeah, for sure. Also, thinking about tribe, a question I ask friends or clients sometimes is, if you met yourself, would you like that person? And people are like, huh? I need a minute to think about that. But you know what you're saying with tribe and who you're attracting. Do you want to attract people that are of a similar nature to you, give off a similar vibe, and enjoy the time they're spending with you? Well, potentially, if we can look inside a little bit more and ask ourselves that question, would I like myself if I met myself? And if you don't, start to look at why that is, maybe what you'd like to change. And I certainly feel like doing that myself. Like, I think I'm quite a cool person to hang out with. Like, I'm quite happy with who I am. That gave me a bit of a mindset shift. I don't really know where it came from, Rob. You know, sometimes we have these thoughts in our busy brains, but I think that whole loving yourself, although it may be woo-woo or whatever we want to say, until you get that down, it can face a lot of struggles, you know?
Absolutely. And it's all about loving yourself. And talking about happiness again, it stems from loving yourself as well. That's the main thing. You have to have self-love, you have to have self-worth. And until you've got that, you can't be happy. You can't, if you haven't got self-worth or self-love, you can't be happy. You may be happy at times, excuse me, but in general, you're not happy until you've got that. And that's why so many people are beating themselves up out there. That's why we've got so much mental health issues. That's why so many people are on different drugs like Prozac or whatever is in fashion at the moment, for depression and everything else. Because there is so much lack of self-worth, lack of self-love out there, lack of connection. And that's what's causing so many problems that are out there.
Yeah, and it is tough as well, you know, when we even look at it from that bodybuilding standpoint as well, because a lot of bodybuilders do listen. When you go into this realm, your self-value can often be attributed to your success as a competitor. And that obviously heads into a whole new realm of if your value is based on if you do well at a show or whatever it is in the prep. And I know you've said on the podcast before, which is super valuable, that you're an athlete, and when you go to stage, if you've done your best, and this is what I say, it's literally all you can do, Rob. Like you cannot do any more. However, it'd be quite cool to pick your brains on that transition from the show into maybe not placing. Of course, the post-show period, as we know, very, very tough. Even if you do win, it can be quite tough. Is there certain things when you work with athletes where it's like the self-value goes down because they didn't get a placing, etc., that you sort of give as tools?
The very, very, very first thing you need to do is get feedback,
Yeah.
right? And that's not just bodybuilding, that's any sport. So if someone's listening and they're into cycling, running, whatever, boxing, my background is I did boxing for, well, over 15 years. And then I've done athletics as well when I was a kid. And now I do running and weight training and stuff like that. So but it doesn't matter what the sport is. When you go into competition and it goes badly, first thing you have to, or even well, the first thing you have to do is reflect. So you have to get down with your coach or yourself, if it's just you, and look at, okay, where did I go wrong? Or where do I perceived that I went wrong? Because sometimes you didn't go wrong. Sometimes the judges just had a different view. Maybe it was that upon reflection, maybe it was just that the judges were looking for definition and you went for size, you know. It just sometimes that's just as simple as it is. And you know what it's like in bodybuilding shows. Half of the time you don't really know until you get there. You know what
No.
so you just have to
Last
bring
year you were doing that.
yeah. Last year it was this. How come all of a sudden now everyone's like massive and jacked, you
Yeah.
know? So you just have to, like you said, bring your best package. And then I say analyze. Once you've analyzed, then go through it and then make a plan of how you're going to improve on whatever that information, that feedback was given to you. And then once you've done that, and this is the most important bit, park it, let it go, let it go. Allow yourself to cry if you have to, but let it go and then move on and enjoy your life because there's more to life.
The let it go. I actually said to Matt, I'd like to ask you that question. And I said, I bet he's going to say, have you 5 minutes or however long it may be, and then let it go. And there is certainly, it's almost like a skill to it, but there's so much merit in that, Rob. Like literally, you can do that. Anyone listening that is,
Yes.
potentially coming up to a show or they've had their show, you can let it go. You have got the power inside you, but you get inundated with these, thoughts and feelings. Now, also as an extension, sometimes you get coaches that will say, not what we came for, or, you should have come first. I personally feel like framing it that way can exacerbate how the athlete feels and potentially lead into more negative thought processes. What would you say with that?
Yeah, listen, I get why they do it. I get why they do it. It's their client or whatever, and they're close to them and they've worked together over a long period of time, and
Yeah.
you've got bond, and you feel for them and you feel pain and also a little bit, if we're being honest, in their heads, they have to sort of pull the blame away from themselves. They may have missed something, but I get it. They will say, look, it's not what we came for, or you deserve better. You should have won. Everybody at a competition seems to have should have won. It's like who came
Yeah.
second up there. They all should have won. It's funny as that. But anyway, the bottom line is the decision has been made. You've got to let it go. You've got to wipe your mouth and move on. Champions do that. They just wipe them up and go, okay, next time I am going to bring something that is so unrefutable
Yeah.
that I am going to win because I'm going to take it out of the judge's hands. I'm going to make it so ridiculously obvious that I am the winner. I mean, we've all been at competitions, haven't we, where you've walked on stage and you've gone, oh my God, they've won.
Yeah. And they
and
do.
they've and they do, you know what I mean? Because when it's that obvious, even the judges would be embarrassed to be, if they're being in favor of their friend or someone they know, or it'd be just ridiculous to go against them. That's what you got to do. In boxing, we had this a lot as well, where trainers, we used to say, you've got to take it out of the judge's hands. You've got to make it either so one-sided they have to win you, or knock them out. It's that
Yeah,
simple. And
yeah.
it's the same with the bodybuilding. I think you've just got to bring a package that is so far from everybody else that it isn't going to even be open to negotiation. And that's the mindset you have to have. And then if it doesn't go the right way, analyze first of all, look at what, then make a plan. Okay, my back wasn't quite as big as it should have been or as defined. Right. Okay, what's the plan? We're going to do some more back work. We're going to do this, do that, get my diet a little bit better and come in a bit tighter. Right. Done that. Park it, let it go.
Get a plan
It's
in
got,
place.
you've got a plan in place. You know what to do now. Park it, let it go. Go and have some fun with your friends and enjoy.
I think as well, it's
That's
super
the bit most people don't do enough.
of having fun.
Of parking it quick enough. You know,
Yeah.
drag it out and sit on it and fester in it
Yeah, you
and,
can.
and yeah. And you have to realize you're a bit boring to be around.
Yeah, because you're literally like, it's like fucking hell in
Yeah.
your head. Like, I remember times back in the early days, I didn't place for years, Rob. Like, I had to be relentless just to get through another prep. But I remember one time I was sitting on the leg extension doing my reps. I was crying with my hood up, just like some raving lunatic. And I was actually like, I don't know whether I want to be here. Now, I know that might seem extreme. It might seem, what's you on
Oh,
about, whatever. But my whole life was going into preps, and you're at a very low body weight, and everything that's going into it, and being in an unhappy spot in my personal life. And I actually was going through those thought processes in the gym. I couldn't stop training. It was like anything to punish myself. And now when I look back, I think actually, it's quite a sad story. I feel like I could go back to that person and go, it's going to be okay. But this comes into the being able to park it. And potentially, if you've got people around you, voice it, right? This is shit. This is really fucking hard. Can you help me?
absolutely. And that is so important. And having that circle as well that's supportive around you that understands and gets it is really important as well. Parking it is key.
Mm, mm.
And the reason I'm sort of almost laboring this point is because so many people can't do it.
Yeah, I
They,
couldn't.
they buy into it and they beat themselves up and they cry and there's all this stuff going on. And,
Yeah.
there's kids dying in the world. It's like,
I know.
you've got to, and I know that's a flippant thing to say, but this is my sport and I'm into it and I want it and I put so much effort into it. But you've got to use these things to try and reframe yourself and shift your perspective, and think that there is people dying, there's wars going on, there's stuff happening. There's a lot worse things than you coming second, third, fourth in a competition. And you have to tell the brain that, because if you want the brain to shift and go in a different direction, it needs direction. It needs to know where to go. So give it something else. And it could be something as flippant as there's kids dying in Africa or kids kids starving in a city near you or
Yeah.
your own city,
Mm,
right?
mm.
You need sometimes something, a reference point to just pull you out of it, because when you have done a 12, 14, 16 week prep or whatever, and you're in it, of course it's the world to you when it goes wrong and everything, and you are allowed to feel bad about it. No one's saying you're not. You, like I said, go upstairs, go to your bedroom, cry, get it out, allow yourself to cry, allow yourself to move, and give yourself a time on it, 2 days, 3 days, maybe that week after, but then after that, done, stop, park it, put it to bed, move on. Because for one, it's not good for you. If you
Mm.
stay in bodybuilding anyway, you might as well crack on and get going and build a better version of you. And for two, I said it flippantly before, but it's true. You are horrible to be around.
I
And
completely
nobody has died. So the people around you won't get it, to that level of you're acting. If it goes more than a week, to me, you're acting. It's like someone in grief. It's like someone you've lost somebody. It's like, come on, it's a competition. Olympians get over that quicker than that sometimes. So this is mindset 101. This is really about controlling your mind and being able to then refocus it down the path you want it to go, not the path it's taking you down.
And what is that path you're setting out to do? Like, if you rewind it straight back to where the start of the prep was, what is your expectation? And that's important when you align with a coach, that they give you an honest managing of expectations, right? Not you're definitely going to win this show, because it does get said, as you can imagine, Rob, you know, lots of things get said, but there needs to be a management of expectations. Also, from a coaching standpoint, for any coaches listening, someone can say to you, I'm going to give it 100%, but they've never done a prep before. 4 weeks in, they're thinking, holy fuck, like I've got a 9 to 5 job, I've got a family, I can't do this, you know. So there is that conversation at the start, why are you doing this? And I don't feel you should ever really say, from a coaching standpoint, you are definitely going to win this show. Maybe to CBUM, but you know, there needs to be an element of actually the management of those expectations throughout the process, especially, you know, from the start. Would you agree?
Oh, massively. I mean, it's funny you mentioned CBUM. To him, I'd say, you're going to win, mate.
He's the only one.
You're going to win. But yeah, look, again, I get it. It's tough because the coach has been paid to do a job. So he wants to say the right things. And most people have got the old school thought of that you're supposed to big up your client or whatever and tell them they're the best thing since sliced bread and they're going to win, and all these mantras and everything else. You're number one, you're the champion and all. But I think a lot of things in psychology are disputing that now, but we can go into that more detail another time. But ultimately, reality is good. But then what you do is you temper that with the fact that if you've got a growth mindset and self-belief, we can achieve things that are incredible. So I would be saying, hey, listen, where you're at now in your experience and what you've done previously, I would be very happy if we could get a cheeky 2nd or 3rd place. Yeah. However, if you put it in and we do this prep right, and you've done your off season correctly, which I know you have, and you do your prep right, and you hit it hard, and with the right judges on the day, we get everything right, you could nick a 1st here.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So now you're telling the client, hey, what you're doing psychologically is you're putting it on them. It's not on you. You're saying, I think you're here, but if you give it everything and do everything I say, diet, prep, everything, sleep, rest, you have the potential to nick it.
Sleep, though, that's a tricky one sometimes.
All of it.
Sleep.
Rest and sleep. Yeah, all of it. I don't. Well, I just want to watch this movie and it finishes at 12:30 and I'll be all right. Listen, champion mindset 101, right? So it's like, how bad do you want it?
For sure. Actually, for your boxing, I'm sure Matt talks to his clients about when he's like doing the nutrition for people in that position as well. And you know, whether it's fighting or powerlifting, this type of thing. And he's like, you know, would you want to not win because you haven't slept? Do you want to go in knowing that you're not as recovered as you could be? Obviously, you're preparing for the event, but just because you've stayed on your phone at night, you're willing to give that winning spot. And certainly there's lots of psychology behind, you know, not nailing those things, which we would class as almost like the basics, right? You know, sleep, food, training, etc. But actually, do those fundamentals of being a bodybuilder, being a boxer, whatever it is, does that bring you happiness? You know, even when it's hard, Rob, you're close to a competition, you're still like, I'm still pretty good here. Like, it's hard, but it's cathartic, isn't it? You know, I think sometimes people need to be a bit honest with themselves there as well.
Listen, I think striving as human beings, we have a need within us to strive for something, for growth, for development. Otherwise, we're dying. If we're not growing, we're dying, right? And this is something that's been studied a lot in psychology about the need to grow and develop and do things. This is why if somebody hasn't got anything and nothing to look forward to, no close family or friends, this is why people slip into major depressions and even die. Because as human beings, we're programmed to want to be striving or growing for something, even if and it doesn't have to be business or some sport or whatever. It could be just, I want to be the best mum that there can be. That's why quite often talking about that, because I've had a client in this situation where you can get a woman, and it's slightly different to my client situation, but same, who's had multiple kids, 5 or 6 kids, always her mindset is I'm the mum, because she's had kids at different ages all through the spectrum. She's had them leave home, come, and then still got a 6-year-old at home and blah blah, and just been mum, 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 mum. And then when the last one goes, bang, they're gone, slip into a massive depression because they've no more. It's like they're not needed. They need to be needed by someone. There in their head, I'm a mum. That's it. That's what I do. I look after my kids. I do that. I set them off in the world, and I'm a mum. And then when they lose that, they've lost their sense of identity. So they've got nothing in their heads to aim for. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to grow for. And now they're just sat there like almost like,
What do I do?
what do I do now? Right. And they start to really slip, and it can affect them mentally, mental health and health wise, and they really slip into deep depression sometimes. And that's why you've got to give them a different focus, a different point. Maybe it's do some charitable work, maybe work with some kids in an orphanage or whatever, or help some people or whatever it may be. But they need a new focus. And now, as human beings, we all need that growth and development and striving to something. And now bodybuilding, boxing, whatever it may be, after a thing, you need to get back on the wagon. You need to have something else you're aiming for, something else you're growing for, something else you're striving for to be a better version of yourself. So that's why I say, go to your bedroom, cry for a bit, and then set your time. And after that time, it's done, it's over, it's done. That's it. Say to yourself, right, come on, let's get back on the wagon, and that's it. And have a plan.
Yeah.
Did I get my diet wrong? Did I get my training wrong? Did I do this? Or if I didn't feel I got it wrong, where can I improve? Can I improve on my diet? Can I improve on my training? And then just do it and just crack on, and that's it. And it is really that.
Literally.
It literally is that. That's all you can do. But champions are good at doing that. They're good at knowing what's the right things to do. Sebum, we used him as an example. I bet he has got, and I don't know him personally or anything, but I bet he's got a plan. He knew it worked once, and he's just rinse and repeat. And obviously he's blessed with great genetics, but genetics don't make you win alone. You've still got to put in the work, and when you win consistently, that's not genetics either. I can tell you a million stories to refute every one of someone who's got good genetics and wins. I could tell you a million stories about people and sports people I know who've got amazing genetics and lost because they didn't do the other bit. They didn't do the mental bit. They didn't work hard. They didn't think that they could not party. They thought they could party and get away with it. They thought they could, loads of different things. So ultimately, you've still got to do the simple stuff and stay super focused on every other way.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like as well, Sebum, I mean, obviously we don't know him like you say, and from what you see on social media and interviews and things, I feel like there are portions of his life where he does enjoy a lot of fun. I think it might be snowboarding or something he does, but he talks about he does things outside of bodybuilding. Now, this is something I know we're going to agree on about, and it's been difficult for me. I won't, lie. I love bodybuilding. It's like every day, but there needs to be levels of enjoyment outside of that, I feel. And that doesn't have to be, massive things, but are there any hobbies? Are there things that bring you joy and also allow you to switch into the present moment? Because we're all guilty of, weeks gone past and you think, where the fuck did that go? Are you living in the present moment? And perhaps you're not. But I feel personally with spending time being able to sit with my meals or do something with Matt or whatever it may be, if I'm present, I feel happier. I feel more fulfilled. And I don't know if there's any psychology behind that, but it makes me feel, more better in myself.
It's funny you say that because there's like it's being tested here now if I can remember them, but I talk about 5 things when helping someone try to be a bit happier. One of them is gratitude, super important. Even if it's just one a day, think of one thing you're grateful for every day, right? The second one is see problems differently. So I talked already about perspective shift. So everyone who I work with, I tend to start with perspective, and we go into what is perspective and how do you shift your perspective and all this stuff. But perspective shift, seeing problems differently. What people tend to do is they look at the problem rather than look for a positive. So it's a skill as this, and it takes time. It took me a long time. And now, like, even friends of mine are like, how do you even do that? Because something will happen and I'll focus on it for a little bit and then I'm done. I'm over it very, very, very quickly. Like, I think I've said on here before, someone could steal my car outside and literally I'd be over it in 3 minutes. It'd be
The
like,
house
oh,
is on fire. Oh
yeah,
well.
house. It's got loads of stuff in that I needed and stuff. It's really a pissing bummer, but do you know what? I'm going to claim on insurance. Do you know what? That gives me a chance now to move to so and so where I really wanted to be, and I'm going to do that. And so I start trying. I can't even stop it now. It's like I'm so programmed. I always my brain just instantly thinks, "What's the positive? There's got to be a positive. This hasn't just happened at me. It's happened for me, right?" So once you change that narrative that things are happening to you or at you, they're happening for you, life makes you a lot happier, right? Then you can then start going, oh, I've just had a puncture in my car and I'm on the way to that really important meeting. Why has that happened? There
Yeah.
must be a positive. Okay, let me make a phone call, let them know that I'm going to be, oh, I've had a puncture, blah, blah, blah. Don't worry about it. And you sit there and then, I don't know, the recovery person comes along and you look at him and he looks at you and you fall in love. And next you've met them, love of you. It could be
It
anything.
does. Yeah, these things happen.
They happen, and I think they happen more when you do have a positive outlook. And I know, again, guys, if you're listening, you're going to be thinking, oh, this is a bit woo woo and all that. But trust me, we all have energy, and I'm not going to go into energy and vibration and all the rest of it now. But I think what you put out, you receive. So getting back to the 5 things, seeing problems differently, shifting, learning to shift perspective is a massive thing. And I spend quite a bit of time with clients on this because it is one of the key components to living a happier life. The third one, I think I'm on the third one. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've tried. Third one is be present. You touched on this a minute ago.
Yeah.
It's living in the present. I think I've got Eckhart Tolle's book up there. Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. It talks all about living in the present, and it gets quite deep and everything. It is a bit woo-woo, but
Yeah.
the main concept of it is so powerful, and we don't do it as human beings, especially nowadays with technology and speed and everything else. We're either living in the past, worrying or remunerating over something that went wrong, or we're living in the future, worrying or remunerating over something that's coming, right? Whereas we forget to just be in the now, because the only thing you've got is the present.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me just say that again, because it goes over people's heads. The only thing you've ever got is the present. I'm going to say it again, right? Because it's that powerful. The only thing you've ever got is the present moment. You may be waiting for something in a week's time. When it comes, it'll be the present moment. The only thing you've ever got is a present. So you can deal with something right now. Don't worry about next week, next month, next year. Just say, okay, if this thing's going to come and happen, what can I do now that, one, is in my control? And this is why I always talk about control the controllables, right? What's in my control right now? And then do it. And if it's something that's not in your control, you have no way of touching it, doing it, you're waiting for a bank to make a decision, you're waiting for a business, then just think, okay, what can I do to relax and be good to me? And do that instead. Because all you've got is now, the moment. And it takes a while to have this shift and have the penny drop on this. Intellectually, everyone understands it because they understand English. They get it. Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. No, you don't. You don't. You still don't. It takes a while for it to really drop, because when you get it and then you apply it and you start to live it, changes everything. Changes everything. And you go, oh, and that's why, going back to me saying about I could handle my house burning down, my car going or whatever, is because I've learned that I just live in the now. And I'll just go, right. All I have to focus on right now is finding somewhere to stay tonight. And that's it. And then in the morning, I'll go, right, now I need to focus on, I don't know, calling the insurance company and working out what's going to happen next. And I'll do that. And then I need to focus on something. And before I know it, I'll wake up in 3 months' time and I'll be in a house and I'll have a new car and I'll be driving around. And that's it. Because it sounds cliche, but it's true that every day above ground is a great day. And if you can really get your mind into that as well and live in the moment, then that goes to what we're saying, how to be, you know, incredibly happy, is believing that actually you woke up today. You know, I don't know if you've seen that meme going around about the that question, and someone says something along the lines of, would you want $10 million or 10 million pounds? And they go, yeah, yeah, yeah. And they go, right, there's only one rule to it though, or one thing you have to do. And they go, what? You won't wake up tomorrow morning. And they went, oh. And they go, do you still want it? And they go, no, I don't want it. And they go, so why then don't you wake up every morning like you've just won $10 million? And I thought that was a really good way of putting it, right? Because you've just given up $10 million because you said you want to wake up tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
So every day above ground is really worth 10 million, isn't it? Or 20 or 100 million or 500 billion. Because if someone offered you 500 billion, you wouldn't take it, would you?
I love that.
Cool, isn't it? And it's just a great way of reframing it and looking at it and thinking, well, I turned that down because I wanted to wake up today. Well, here I am. I woke up. So let's live life to the full. Let me do what I want to do, not trudge along and be unhappy and moan and live crappy in a crappy way, and just do what you want to do. Live in the moment, live in the now, you know? And that's why being present is number 3 is be present, is live in the now. And number 4 is healthy lifestyle. Have a healthy lifestyle, which means basically everything that goes with it. Eat healthily, work out, look after the body, because it's the only vehicle you're going to get. So look after it. You know, we buy cars, right? And we change them every 2 or 3 or 4 years. And we might in a lifetime have 5 or 10 or 15 cars if we're lucky, whatever. But we only get one body. But some of us treat it terribly, right? So if you want to be happy, you can't be happy if your body isn't good, or you're not happy with your body, right? So look after yourself. And it doesn't mean you have to live like a bodybuilder, because there could be people listening to this who are not bodybuilders, but it means
lifestyle.
Yeah, just be healthy.
Yeah.
Just be healthy. And maybe it's time for you to use this maybe as your catalyst, this program, this podcast, and say, do you know what? Yeah, all you have to do is make some small changes. They're not big, you know, just say I'm going to eat a piece of fruit every day, or I'm going to start get 10,000 steps in, or 5,000 steps a day to start with. And I'm going to do, and you watch how much you change, your mindset changes. And it won't be just because of what doing those things bring you. It'll be because of the mental side of it, because you made a decision and you followed through and you actually did it.
You've shown
That
up.
will bring you more than the results of eating a piece of fruit and going for a walk every day will bring you. The fact that you said something about yourself, you made a plan, you did it, and you followed through. And then you'll think, oh, wow, if I can do that, maybe I can do this. And you'll do something else, something else, something else. And that's a lot of the sort of stuff that I work on with people as well, is just putting little plans in place, building up, and then getting bigger and bigger and better and better. And the 5th one, I'm stalling there because I've forgotten, was collect memories. Collect memories, not things.
Oh, I love these 5.
Collect memories, not things. So ultimately, we're all obsessed because of conditioning. And I talk a lot about this when I work with people as well. So conditioning is one of the big things I talk about. Spend probably a month on this if it's a long-term client. Conditioning is super powerful. We're being conditioned every day. We wake up, you walk down the road, if a bus goes past you, there's probably an advertisement along the side of a bus. You've got advertisements everywhere in front of you. There's advertisements when you're putting petrol in your car. If you look at the top of the petrol pump, sometimes they've got the little round thing on, and there's a little advert. It's everywhere. The guy who thought of that actually is a multimillionaire now, you know, by the way.
Yeah.
Because advertising and marketing space is at such a premium now, there's nothing left to stick things on, that if you come up with something new, you can make millions selling the idea. And he came up with that on the little round circle thing. If anyone's not noticed before, most petrol stations have it. And it usually is an advert for something in that petrol station or whatever, but they have that and it's on there, and it's just that sticky thing. But anyway, attention is super important. And what they do is they hit us with you need the latest mobile phone, or you need the latest Mac computer, or you need the latest whatever it may be, watch or whatever. And we get so focused, car, we just talked about, so focused, I need the next BMW, Audi, Mercedes, whatever it may be. And we forget that actually the things we tend to talk about, like when I meet with old friends, whatever, we buzz about the holidays we went on, or the trip we did this thing, or when you went to Glastonbury and had that right laugh, and who was it that your mate fell in the mud and blah blah. So you know what I mean. So that's where I think collect memories, not things. It's about that sort of stuff. You know, I can remember a barbecue I had last year and the fun that we had, and it was just a buzz, and we got a bit merry and just doing these stupid dances and all this stuff. But I never really think about the first Merc I ever bought, you know, unless it's a picture that pops up on my phone from 20 years ago, whenever it was. And I look at it and I go, oh, I remember that car. Yeah, it was a cool car when I got that. Yeah. And that's it. And I flick on. But I don't bring that memory back up for myself, you know. So happiness really is about collecting memories. And what you can do is actively say, do you know what, I'm going to start doing that, and go to your friends and actually book them in a diary, right? The only reason things don't happen and we go so long without seeing people is because we don't book it in. The reason we're on this podcast right now is because we booked it in the diary. So when it came to this day at this time, we knew we had to be here to get this done. It's the same. There's something I do with some clients of mine, and we do this thing, and we look at the calendar, and we get them to actually populate it every couple of weeks with different things with different people, and it depends on where they're at in their lives, but get certain friends and they go, right, I'm gonna incorporate kill 2 or 3 birds with one stone. So because often people come to me and say, I haven't got time to get fit, I haven't got time to socialize, I haven't got time, I'm so busy at work and I'm stressed and I'm run down, I don't know what to do. And so we go, okay, and then we make a plan. And one of them might be, okay, so we put in this diary, in 3 or 4 weeks time, you call your mate first and you go, right, John, we used to love playing tennis together, we're going to go and play tennis on Saturday in 4 weeks, 3 weeks. And what you're killing there is you've booked in to see him and socialize with your friend. You might have a nice light lunch together afterwards, so you're going to eat well, and you're exercising because you're playing tennis. So you're doing it all in one go. And then what you can do is start populating your diary with more of these things together. So another one, if you've got a friend who's got a dog and you've got a dog, go and walk it together. Even if they're not in your area, put it in the car, take it to them. So now you're walking the dog, you're getting some steps in, and you're meeting your friend. And once you start thinking this way, you start to come up with new ideas of how you can kill 2 or 3 birds with one stone. My missus now goes swimming with her friend who's got a kid. So they're taking the kids swimming, and they're also meeting together socially and having fun, but they're also getting to swim a bit and have some fun as well, and burn some energy as well. So you can habit stack things and also collect memories while you're doing it as well. So they're the 5 things anyway. A bit long-winded.
I love those. I love that. Yeah, but each of them brings so much value, but also breaking it down, isn't it? Like you say, you know, on a podcast, you're listening, and I always reference this. It's like you might pick up one sentence from an hour or two, right? And that's why sometimes compartmentalizing, actually it helps to process, and maybe someone can timestamp and go, I'll go back to that bit. So the 5 broken down is really good. And I feel like as well, from my own personal experience and people I've seen in the bodybuilding space, we can forget to have fun. We can forget to be present, for sure. We can also forget that there is the option to go for a walk to get your steps with a friend or family member. You can have a black coffee, they have a piece of cake, these types of things. Now, these are things we can for sure do, maybe not like 4 weeks out or such, like if you're in the zone and what have you, but I did neglect my own friendships for sure for a number of years. And I look back and I think I can't do anything about it. But what I can do now is remind my clients of this, and how that can feel when you sort of, you look back and you think, shit, it's important. A competition for me, that is, my life's on the line. And, you know, joking aside, it means a lot to me. However, I've learned that I can enjoy the preparation. And I know a lot of elite athletes that do the same. You know, they go and do cardio but they do fun versions of cardio and they do other things. Doesn't mean you're not a proper bodybuilder if you do have a bit of fun.
I think that's an old school thing, isn't it? I think there's this misconception that you've got to suffer. You've got to suffer. You've got to be miserable and horrible. Well, don't get me wrong. Probably in the last week or two, maybe, you've got to go to that dark place, and it's starting to hit you because you're hungry, you're tired. It's tough. But the rest of it, that this thing that you've got to fall on your sword and be, this tough thing. What I would say is you've just got to look after yourself. That's why, we're talking about happiness. You've got to make sure you're happy, and you've got to make sure you're controlling your mind, your mental health, your mindset, because that's where, I've had loads of calls I've mentioned on here before from clients who are bodybuilders, and they're in tears, literally. And, and I'm there just to pick them up. I've got to, say the right things there and then. I've got no time to prepare or anything. This is it. They're on the phone, they're crying. They've looked in the mirror. They said, I feel fat. I feel horrible. I'm only 3 weeks out. I'm miles off. I'm not going to do it. And I know they're not, but they've got that body dysmorphia thing going on. And then we have little techniques and stuff. Like I've got a great grounding one for them there. So this is another tip actually that people can pause and go back to for if you're in prep or whatever, and you're just having a meltdown and you need to just relax and calm yourself down. And it's a great grounding exercise. And first of all, I always say, start with 3 or 4 deep breaths, because if you talk to some of my clients, I always jokingly say, and I don't kind of joke about it, I mean it, is that breath work, controlling your breaths and using them in a shorter version, to me, is one of the auxiliaries of life. It's something that since I learned about and did, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, in the early days of maybe Wim Hof and things like that, I couldn't believe the power of what it was. And all it is controlling your heart rate, right? And your blood pressure. That's all it is, really. And I always say, if you're melting down, take 3 or 4 deep breaths, slow breaths. You can use the 5 by 5 by 5 method if you want, but I call it 4 by 4 by 4. So you breathe in for 4 seconds, in through the nose. So hold it for 4, then breathe out for 4, and then repeat 4 by 4 by 4, in through the nose, out through the mouth for 4 seconds. And then you look at 5 things and use your 5 senses and look for 5 things that you can see. And that can be like me sat here now, just looking around. I can look out the window and then focus on something. Oh, a beautiful red-tailed kite just went by there. And or the leaves on a tree, and really focus on them, okay, what you can see, and then do something close up as well. So like your hand, focus on the fingerprints, the little prints all over your hands, and just focus on them and try and bring them into focus. So you've looked at something quite far away, long range, and then look at something very close up and focus on that. And then 4, look for 4 things that you can feel. So using all your senses, sight, sound, touch, taste, right? So now you're looking for something you can feel. So it could be anything. I've got a cushion here, touch this and feel the texture, touch this paper in front of me here, the desk in front of me, touch the glass and feel the texture and the difference of this texture. And then what's the other one? See, feel, hear. So 3, look for 3 things that you can hear. And you might have to just get up and look out the window or something. It might be a bird tweeting, a dog barking in the distance, a car, and you just focus on that for a few seconds. The second one is testing myself today. Smell. So if you are somewhere you can't smell anything different, imagine it. Think about the 2 different smells of something, beautiful flower. Focus on that for a second. Anything, something, beautiful pot, a dish that you love, a favorite food or something. Focus on coffee, the smell of fresh coffee in the morning, whatever it may be that you're into. And then the last one is taste. So you got the smell, the taste. Did I get that in the right order? Yeah.
Yeah,
taste.
I think, yeah.
So the last one is taste. So then You focus on something you can taste. And again, if you're not somewhere where you can actually physically taste something, imagine what a lovely biting into a fresh, crisp apple is like, or something chocolatey or nice, something that you want. And what the idea of this grounding technique, a lot of psychologists use this and counselors and stuff, but it's a standard thing. But the idea of it is that you, by doing the breath work first, so 5-5-5 or 4-4-4, that brings your heart rate right down, calms you down. Then doing that exercise of seeing, feeling, touching, tasting, hearing, etc., takes your brain's focus away from the thing that's giving you the anxiety, that's stressing you out. And by the time you've done all that, you're totally calm again. You're back in the room, and then you're aware. And then you can go, okay, now let me focus on what I want, not what I don't want. And it takes you back to what you're doing. It's a great technique that is almost impossible to stay in a very high state of anxiety after you've done that properly. It's almost impossible. If you listen to this, try it honestly, try it properly.
I'm going to try it.
And then drop me a line. Let me know how it worked for you. I'd be really happy to hear about it. But it massively works. So again, talking about happiness, that's another way of self-regulating, self-controlling, because we're all too conditioned again to look for the quick answer. I want a pill, or I want something that's going to help me in life, or whatever. And we've got all the tools we need. We've got everything we need in our own heads. That's all. It's our heads that play the trick on us in the first place. So what we need to do is learn how to trick it back almost. The brain, as I've said before, it's just like a little puppy that's playing out, and playing up. And you've got to control it. It wants to be told what to do. It wants to be trained. It wants to be developed. So your brain is just waiting to, like an obedient puppy, disobedient puppy going, what shall I do? What shall I do? And it's just waiting for you to say, okay, calm down, take some breaths, relax, nothing's going wrong. What I want you to do is focus on this. What I want you to do is focus on this post that I'm writing that you're struggling with. So let's think about, okay, what's the topic we want to write? Okay, so what is the content that we really want to put in there? I want to talk about this, and this. Okay, so how are we going to put that across? Let's break it right down and get there. We'll get there. It'll be fine, right? And that's all you do. Let's focus on our bodybuilding. What are we struggling with? Well, I think I'm fat, and I think I'm not losing the weight. It's not coming off quick enough, and this, that, and the other. Okay, well, let's break it down. Let's look at everything. Have we followed the plan to a T? Well, I kind of have. Right. Well, there straight away, we know we haven't.
For sure.
So let's get back on the wagon. Have we followed the plan to a T? Yes, we have. Okay, let's go back to our coach and tell him what our fears are. Let's see what he says. And if the coach says to you, you're exactly where I want you to be, you look fine to me, believe him, right? It's all in your head. Just believe him, right? So that's it. And when you take control and talk to yourself like that and allow, you can only do it though once you've done all the breath work and calmed yourself down. Because when you're in a state of frenzy, your brain won't listen to you. It's just on a survival thing, and it's like, everything's going wrong, just don't do it. Just pull out of the whole competition. You'll feel so much better. Just don't do it. And that's
Why am
what
I doing this to myself?
Yes, why am I doing it? What you do? You don't need this in your life. Just stop it. But then you stop, and you really do love doing it, and you hate yourself because you quit and you gave up, and then you've got all that stuff to deal with, and the fact now you're a failure, you're a quitter, you're this, you're that, you're no good, blah blah blah. So now, as we said at the beginning, feelings of self-worth and self-love are gone, and you're on the floor. And this is ultimately classic of what I help people with in sports and business as well, and day-to-day life as life coaching as well. But things spiral very, very quickly, and we've just got to use the techniques that are there to take control and get back on the wagon, and then have a plan. And you need someone there as well who can hold you accountable as well, because that helps as well. Because when we're just at the whim of ourselves, it's easy to blag things and not do things or whatever. But if someone's there, a family friend or whatever, a mentor, a coach, whatever, to help us and keep us accountable, that helps as well.
I feel like that. Well, that technique, obviously, it almost like gives you context for that moment, isn't it? Like your world is crashing down, but actually you're okay. So we come out and we do that method, And what I would say as well is when you have got people around you, if you're in that, heavily anxious state or what have you, depending on who is around you, taking yourself out to do that method you just broke down, rather than going, well, everything's going wrong, and then potentially causing problems with your maybe relationships as well. Whereas if you can get your context a bit of time out, you could then maybe go, okay, maybe I was being a bit overzealous, maybe I was, and then you could maybe talk to someone after that, because I feel like otherwise, for sure, like any sport, you get very invested and it can cause that friction with relationships. And I think that sometimes from an outsider's point of view, as not a bodybuilder, if you're going, this is shit, I look shit, what are they going to think? They're going to think, well, why are you doing this to yourself? If they don't get it,
They don't get it.
then the bodybuilder goes, why are you saying that? That doesn't help. I want to do it. And then it's like, but when you look at it from an outsider's point of view, take a step back, you go, this person doesn't understand why you're doing this in the first place. So then you're slagging it off, you're being negative. Well, don't do it then. It's quite hard, but when
Well,
I
people on the outside think you're bipolar. They're just like, what's
what are
wrong
you
with
doing?
you? What is wrong with you? Why are you moaning about something? Just stop. And you go, no, but I don't want to stop. But I want to moan. And they're like, oh my God, you're doing my head in. Just go away from me or whatever. It's tough,
Now,
tough one.
yeah, for sure. That technique you actually spoke through, a listener question that we've got, I think actually could probably answer that in a certain degree. So if I read it out, Rob, and that, what we're saying there, getting some context and some time out. So I guess something along the lines of, when I'm gripped by grief and trauma, how can I quickly, or maybe not quickly, get myself to an even keel? I already know the theories. I know the feeling won't last forever. It's not going to kill me, but sometimes I do think about suicide or have suicidal thoughts. And I know it's good to get out and move, move your body, be outside, but in the thick of it, in floods of tears, that's probably not the first thing you want to do. Would that technique be something you'd recommend when you're, in that acute traumatic?
Massively.
Yeah.
Massively. A lot of psychologists do as well, and counselors. It's a basic tip. There's quite a few I use, but that's a good one. With this person, I would say, first of all, you need to seek professional help as well. If you're even talking about suicide, definitely seek professional psychotherapy. But if they said at the beginning, overcoming grief, wasn't it?
Yeah, and trauma, yeah.
Grief and trauma. Yeah. And again, with stuff like that, it's a lot of the techniques we've talked about already work with that. And one thing I said at the very beginning early on was allow yourself to cry, and they need to. And I think, again, British, stiff upper lip, all that sort of thing. We don't allow people enough time to have trauma. And with everybody, everything's labeled now as mental health and all of this sort of stuff. And there's been some really good books written on this, and a lot of people don't understand depression. And she obviously sounds depressed, but I'm not saying that's what she is, because I don't know her. But what I would say is, do anything but take pills unless somebody very, very good has told you need pills. I mean, there's lots of books written now about the problems with pills and do they work, and are they any good? And I mean, now there's some crazy statistics. I think 1 in 4 middle-aged women in the USA are on antidepressants, and 15% of the population in the UK was prescribed with antidepressants. And what is it, in the last 6 years or something, it's increased 35%. And there was a lot of research done on this, and they were found that a lot of these antidepressants didn't actually stop them being depressed. So what you want them for? There's so much I can say on this, and I'm just trying to be careful, because I understand that people out there that need this stuff, and we have to understand that depression and unhappiness are two totally different things, right? But for me, I've worked with a lot of people who've come to me who were depressed, and they was given pills, and with the stuff we've done, within a couple of months or so, they've felt 20 times better than what the pills ever did for them. So there is a lot of state of mind to go with that. If someone, there's even a lot of talk about, can people be clinically depressed, in terms of when we talk about chemical depletion, and is it really a chemical depletion? Because There's a great book that Johan Hari wrote. What's that called? Oh, Lost Connections. And he talks a lot about this. So anyone out there who's suffering with depression or anything, Johan Hari, Lost Connections, it's a fantastic book where he talks about this, and he's done loads of research into depression and looking at the top, like Pfizer and all these top drug companies, and some of the tests they've done and what they release to the public and what they keep are two different answers. And it actually is proven that it's a lot of it is placebo. And there's so much in there and I can't go into it, but have a read of that book, check it out, and you will find that there's so many things. There's a thing as well called the Hamilton scale, which measures the depth of depression that you have. They found that the points that you get on this Hamilton scale goes up 6 points just with improved sleep. And when they tested this same people on with drugs, it went up 1.8 points. So just from getting some regular good sleep, changing lifestyle habits can have a better improvement. But I get it. Like she said, when you're in the middle of it, she said it's hard to do, and she understands a lot of it. So even she's saying, I get it, I understand it, but it's just hard to do when you're in it. And that's why I like the techniques that even when you feel like shit, you are pretty easy to do. Like I can be sat here and do that technique, the grounding technique. I can sit here and do that.
Yeah.
So if I was suffering from depression, I'm crying, I'm feeling like shit, I could sit here and take 3-4 deep breaths and do the 4x4x4, 4 breaths in, hold for 4, breathe out, hold for 4, and then look around, focus on 5 things I can see, 4 things I can feel, 3 things I can hear, 2 things I can smell, and 1 thing I can taste. I can do that sat here, and I can calm myself down, and I can bring myself down and calm down. So saying to her, that's what I would do. I would practice mindfulness techniques, and then some really basic, silly. They're considered silly, but to me, they're huge because I'm the mindset guy, right? But smiling at random people, just smiling.
I love
sleep. Sleep, as we said, is a major thing. And do you know another one that psychologically has been proven really is to give compliments.
Yes.
Give compliments to people because you get like a serotonin hit as well from yourself and a dopamine hit. It's just really powerful, along with the breath work and stuff like that. And a couple of things is getting out into nature, I think is like incredibly powerful. Like going to the Yorkshire Dales or somewhere down south, wherever there's lots of open land. So getting out into nature is a big thing. And the other thing is trying new things. So there's a part in the brain that when we do new things, they talk about neurons that wired together, stay together, sort of thing. So when you try new things, your brain's active and it's working, and it gives you a bit of a boost, if it's something you enjoy. So try something new that you maybe been putting off and just give it a go. Learn a new language, read a new book, whatever. Just try something new, do new things, and that helps you as well. So basically, just keep your mind active and on positive, uplifting things. And another thing, the main one is speak to people in your circle, people who love you, people who care for you. Go to them and talk to them, because quite often they're the people we push away first. So make sure you're talking to those people and reaching out to those people, or if you haven't got them, reach out to a professional or someone who can help you.
For sure. That's almost a graduated response as well, isn't it? Because you can do some things in the house where you feel safe, you're in your place, and then you can start to look at getting the fresh air, maybe speaking to friends, taking up a new hobby. Like, again, like she said, I know what theory is, but actually at that time, when things are acute, I really do rate that method you've spoken about there, because I can vividly remember things that have happened to me. And I think if I had something like that could take me out of that mindset of, the whole world is ending, as it were, to just go, okay, let's contextualize here. So that is super useful. Now, before we wrap up, we've got one more question, which is, maybe could feed into a new hobby of yours, Rob, but who knows? I will ask you the question anyway. So what's the one thing you would love to achieve in this lifetime that you haven't already?
Oh, that's a really good question. What's one, say that again, sorry.
So what's one thing you would love to achieve in this lifetime that you haven't already?
Oh wow. Well, I've got loads of things in my to-do list in my book, book of lists of things that I want to achieve. But one thing, well, I really want to, oh God, there's a few. I want to do a retreat in Ibiza, and I want to do kind of a mindset retreat where we talk about mindset, help people with all that, and then also cover health and finances as well, because I think those three things are big in the world at the moment. You know, you've got to have a clear mind and be able to focus. You've got to be healthy and understand, you know, how to quickly get yourself healthy. And finances is one of the, if not the biggest thing for me. Most people out there don't know how to invest, don't know how to save. They don't know what even a basic S&P 500 is, or any of those type of things in investments, and it can change their life. In fact, if I could go back in time and there's only one thing I can do, I would tell the younger me to just invest a couple £100 a month in an S&P 500. And at my age now, I'd be a millionaire. I'd be done. That's it. So investment.
You know what I'm doing off the back of this pod?
Yeah, go and do that. Trust me. Anyone who's listening to this, especially if you're under 35 or any age, but if you're under 40, under 35, under 30, under 20, and if you're in your 20s, oh my God, you're so lucky. But get some kind of investment. Don't take it from me, but get some investment advice and just open something like a basic S&P 500 plan. £100 a month, £50 a month, even if you're younger, and do that till you're about 55. And then if I'm still alive, thank me for that. And I want just a 5% cut, please. It's the simplest way.
Premium bonds.
Premium bonds. Back in the day,
I
premium bonds.
used to do them.
Yeah, they're still there. They're still there, but they're not as sexy, but they're still there. They're still there. You know what I mean? But you know, these are things that nobody teaches in schools or anything like that, and we don't know. And we're just taught, you know, put your money in the bank, and you know, as we know now, the interest you're getting in the bank's about 2% or something, 3%, whatever it is. But inflation's like 6, 7, 8%. So your money's going backwards in the bank. You just don't realize, but that's what we're taught. Whereas if we're taught how to invest properly, you can make a lot. And that's what rich people do. So that would be what I do. But anyway, getting back to the question, I think it'd be write a book. And I want to do this Ibiza retreat. This is something I've got all the plans and everything of how it would work, and talk about all that. But write a book and speak at a major arena like Leeds First Direct Arena, or Manchester Arena, or London Arena, somewhere, and do
a TED Talk.
And do well, I've been offered that twice, so I know I can do that. So that's not really on my big bucket list, even though I do want to do it. But I'd like to speak at an arena and do some kind of mindset kind of thing at a big arena. But write a book is probably the one that I'm still playing with and toying with at the moment. But I keep chopping and changing how it sits in the work. Is it going to be aimed at helping people and just doing that? Is it going to be more my life story, but with some helpful tips in? Is it going to be, so there's lots of different things going on there, but they're the things that I still want to, and amongst the load others as well. There's still so much I want to do as well. I wanted to open up a charitable foundation for young adults where it helps them with mindset, so they can make good choices, they can control their mind before their mind controls them, and just help them with all things well-being, mindset, all that sort of stuff, rather than like there's loads of community centers and stuff out there where people can go and play table tennis and learn how to apply for jobs and stuff. But yeah, but I'd like to have Coach Rob's charitable trust where there's a centre, so that's another thing as well.
Well, maybe Dee, who asked the question, she's one of my clients and she's a massive, massive fan of you. She was like, I fucking love him when I said you were coming on.
Thank you.
Maybe she should listen to what your ideas are with your book, and she could let us know what she feels would be the most beneficial. I'm sure she would be your first purchase. But
hey, listen, anybody listening, I would love them to send in and say what they would like the book to be about and how it come across. Because there's loads of self-help people out there who've written books, right? So I don't want to do what's already been done, especially by the big names as such. But I've got ideas, so we'll see. Keep fingers crossed.
Yeah, for sure. Well, as always, I always say to you, don't I, Robin? I'm not just saying it. When I podcast with you, I always learn little things and pick up things. But even like I've raved about that method since you've shared it today, it's things like that that sometimes we're not considering as options when we're in the thick of it, or maybe you haven't thought about things like that before. We said right at the start, mindset is more up and coming now. It's more accepted, and males and females are doing it. It's not just females on yoga retreats, and it's super cool. And I feel like this episode and the ones we've done before really do bring, highlight that, how important it can be. So thank you so much for coming on again.
Welcome. I love being on the show, and always happy to jump on whenever you think it's right for what you're doing.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much. Of course, you needed to be part of the psychology series because you are the mindset man. Thank you, Rob. I will put your name in the description for Instagram. And if anyone does want to reach out to you about anything we've discussed or coaching, of course, head over to Rob's Instagram. And if you enjoy it, tag us in the stories, because the person that shared it the other day is the reason we are here today. So thank you to that Instagram follower.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Speak to you soon.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Hey!